Welcome back, everybody. Draskyl here with another replay analyses for the day. We're currently on a short series that I wanted to do regarding support play, all very high-level pubs, typically pro players. And what we're going to do is go through the game, talk about the possible thought process behind what the support is thinking in the early to mid stages of the game based on, what he does. This is more for maybe people who are lower MMR or are just new to the game, who don't quite understand how to best utilize their time. And we're going to cover a lot of different situations. So in the last video that I did, there was a little bit of a recording scuffle and we didn't get to finish it. But hopefully the beginning of it, if it was uploaded, there's going to be some useful content in that particular game. I believe it was a 4 Lion that we covered. This time around, we're going to be doing an Ancient Apparition. This is one of the most popular and winningest heroes, I believe, of the current patch, which is 7.29b. Just going to go through the game and talk about what he does, why he's doing it, potential theories that I personally have about the game. Obviously, not all of this will be super intricate, just basic concepts. So, first thing you want to do in any game as a support is identify what lane you're going to be in. In this case, he's going to be bottom. He's going to be with a bristleback, I believe. I haven't watched this game, so whatever the lanes shape up to be, I'll be finding it out at the same time as you're watching this video. So he's starting stick, double mango. He has a sentry, and he has some tangos with 2 branches. It's not a super crazy inventory by any means. He's probably going to be laning against an axe +1. It's either going to be the clockwork, potentially the grim. In some cases, Grimstore can be played mid as well, so again, we'll figure it out when the creeps actually clash. So whenever you're in a lane and you're playing support and you're not certain about how the lane's going to go, it's always nice to start with a sentry because it means that you can either block the large camp yourself or you can counter the block on your own camp. So if people aren't body blocking camps in your MMR by walking over and just standing in the box, if the guy is dropping a sentry there instead, you can just kill it yourself. And if you don't know, all you have to do is put the sentry in the middle of the camp, find the ward by walking around, kill it, and then kill your ward. You can do it from 100%. So it's always nice to start with one if you just don't know what's going to happen. If your lane is stronger than your opponent and you know you're stronger, then it's definitely good to have the sentry because good players will want to block the camp to prevent you from pulling it because they know that they can utilize it or you can utilize it and they can't. So just a little tip about how to play the lane and pulling and stuff when it comes to strength of the lane. So we're going to fast forward a bit. We don't need to see like every little thing in the early game. He's going to be walking to the rune, kind of chilling here with his team. You see a lot of pubs do this. It's mostly just gathering information, see who wards where. If there's a lane swap that's going to happen, it's going to be based on what both teams see. So if there's a lane that's really bad for either team and they get the scout early and be in the middle of the map, it means it's easier to walk to the the top or the bottom lane from middle than it is to be bottom and have to walk all the way across, right? Because some lanes just simply you can't be there and the lane's way too hard and you'll just lose the lane. And it's important to walk first and not TP, mainly because if you do TP first and then the enemy team just reacts to your TP, well then you're trapped in your bad lanes. So always good to get information, always good to go for the runes. This game, it looks like it's going to be a, what is that, 2 for 2? Yeah, just 2 for 2. They get the D ward on the mid lane as well, so free gold and EXP for the queen, which is nice. We didn't have to use a sentry here on the AA. He's just going to walk towards bottom. Also for reference, this is rank 26, so he's in the, I think this game's average is around 9k MMR. So it's a very, very high MMR game. Looks like he is peeking at top lane. So our lane matchup is going to be Bristleback AA versus Axe and Grim. So it is the Grim down here and it is Viper mid. Clockwork is the 5. There are a lot of spells that are going to be cast in this lane, especially by Grim. He has 3 actives, so the stick makes a lot more sense now. Obviously, the opposition is going to have their own stick because there's a Bristle in the lane. So the creeps are going to be spawning here. Neither support is going to block just yet. In this matchup, I would say that the Dire's lane is slightly stronger, especially if they hit 2 first. Because then you have to worry about things like the Inkswell combo with the Axe and Battle Hunger. And even right here, you can see he's taking quite a bit of harass. The Grim might have gone a little bit too aggressive, though. Hits level 2, immediately skills his cold feet, and they get a kill on it. So let's go back and just double check and see, you know, how he came to the conclusion that this was going to work out. If we look at the wave right here, the range creep is dead very quick. So because the range creep is already dead, that means we have an EXP advantage for sure, because our range creep is still alive. Really good players always are looking. You notice his camera positioning, right? This isn't how I'm looking at the game. This is how his camera is positioned. So he sees the creep wave, the axe, and the Grim all at the same time, along with his bristle. So when he sees the range creep is dead, he could very easily say, oh, I'm just going to hit 2 first. So this trade is fine, right? He doesn't want his bristle getting harassed for free by the Grim. And if they're going to hit 2 first, he knows, you know, worst case, he dies here. He just comes back to lane, and he has, you know, full health, full mana, and stuff like that. Trading lives can also be very effective in the early part of the lane, especially if you keep your core at high health, because it means when you come back, they don't have resources and you do, and then you reclaim control of the lane. So there's a lot of reasons why trading off to the side here can be really good for Radiant at level 1. And as I mentioned, you know, level 2 and 3, when the Grim starts getting all his spells and the Axe has Spin and Hunger and Call, the lane gets a lot more difficult for the Radiant side. So he takes his trade. He's backing up a little bit, playing near the trees just in case he needs to use Fog. He's baiting his stick charges a little bit, even sends his courier in. That's a little bit of a misplay, but they do get the kill regardless. And his courier did have a salve on it too. Very good to be in practice of sending out salves as a 5 especially. And notice how he doesn't miss a beat here. As soon as he gets the kill, he sees his creep wave coming. He hits the camp at around 30 seconds, and he can pull it straight down this way because the Grim is dead. Obviously, he can't contest anymore. So he's going to get that pull. And now he's put his Bristleback in a lot better of a position, too. I think he even got the first blood. Yeah, he did. So he's feeling pretty good about it. And he'll be able to salve. He'll be back at full HP. Doesn't even have to die. It is very profitable for your safe lane hero to take trades like this and have regen being ferried out to you in advance. If you have to wait for the regen and you're sitting in trees and you're not supporting your Bristleback, let's say, for example, he didn't have the salve on the courier. All of a sudden, it's a Bristleback versus 2 heroes for, you know, anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds, however long it takes for the courier to get out. That stuff needs to be there as needed and not any later. So he's taking a bit of damage here. He's got 10 stick charges. Bristleback's courier might be going down. Really nice movement here as well. Battle Hunger wears off. They're able to get another kill on the Grim. And this kill is even more important because I believe the Grim's TP is going to be on cooldown. See if they get the axe as well. Nice chase. And they're going to get 2 kills on top of that. So this lane is definitely snowballing. And yeah, the Grim's TP is on cooldown for 10 seconds, as you can see right here. This time, his courier was dead, so he was unable to send out the regen immediately. But he's still going to find time to stack a camp. Now, a lot of players, especially the lower MMR ones, are going to be at this health and this mana threshold, and they're going to say, I got to go back to base, or I have to TP, or whatever. As far as efficiency goes, you don't really want to walk back to base a lot of the time, because what happens is you're going to be forced to TP back to your lane, and as some heroes, that's okay. Like as AA specifically, I'd say TPing to your lane in the early game is fine because you don't offer a stun. Now, why would TPing to your lane be bad on other 5s? Well, the main reason is that if you're anything that offers crowd control, if you see anything else on the map happening in the downtime while you're making your way back to lane and you have a TP available, then you can be the guy who saves from a potential dive in another place on the map. So for AA specifically, or heroes that don't have a good CC on their own, usually TPing to the lane is considered more okay, but if you're playing like a Lion or a Shadow Shaman or, you know, anything with a disable, it's often seen as bad to just TP basically anywhere without it being forced. And by forced, I mean just someone playing aggressive on a core that you want to protect. So here he's just going to stack. Should be pretty easy. I'm not sure if he's going to suicide to neutrals or not, but he might just end up dying anyway. But it's not really a big deal. I don't even know if he cares about the last hit. It's a low-level battle hunger. Stick will save him, I think. It's going to dodge the Stroke of Fate. His courier is on the way out, so I guess he just doesn't want to die at all, and he's fine with sitting here for a couple of seconds. As far as what he's done in the lane so far, it's a lot of damage. His downtime has been minimal. He's got more regen, he buys a salve, and an additional set of tangos. This kind of stuff is really important for any aspiring 5. The meta, as it stands right now, buy lots and lots of regen. Just buy it all the time. Especially if you're this artillery type hero who can sit really far away and just throw damage into the 3 and the 4. Having the regen means you're always contributing, your lane presence is always felt, there's very little downtime. He might die here. Baiting a little bit for the bristleback. Axe is going to get slowed. Might even get them both. Bristleback has that point into goo. He's using the tree for fog. Very nice, very nice, very nice. They're playing this bot lane very well. AA's kind of using his body to bait the Grim in, because once their spells are down, if they're committing all their spells to the AA and they don't kill him, or heck, even if they do kill him at this point, there's a good chance the Bristle is going to kill one, if not both of the heroes. Bristleback loves fights against other heroes who don't have escapes, and whenever you commit and you can't kill the Bristle, then the fight immediately gets turned. So whenever he's sitting in a position that's really far forward, and I thought he might even be too far forward there if he wanted to live, even if he does die, he knows that his Bristle is going to clean up, and that's also okay. We just need to dispel the notion that dying on a support is bad so long as your death has value behind it. Even if he were to die there, he just knows that his Bristleback is level 5 at 5 minutes, the Axe has died, the Grim has died multiple times. The lane itself is going just super, super well. And as I had not seen this game, I just saw the endgame screen and I looked at the graph. It looked relatively close in regards to net worth until roughly like 20 or so minutes, which is fine because we really only want to cover the early and the mid-game stages anyway. But again, more regen. He buys another salve. He buys another set of tangos. He buys more clarities. The name of the game here is uptime and efficiency. How long are you on the map? How often are you there to support your core? Now this lane is pretty... It's pretty interesting because I do feel like Dire's lane could theoretically win it if they played it a bit better. But Radiant were just so good at baiting in the Axe and baiting in the Grimstroke spells and not dying. Understands his limits very well on the hero. Knows how much damage he can take and everything like that. And now they're playing super aggressive onto the tower. They saw the Viper cancel the TP, so they know that this dive is probably not going to get punished. Only person who really can TP to this, besides a Terrorblade, is Clock. And we'll see if the Bristle ends up dying here. He might. Nice, he gets out. But you notice, he commits to what his core is doing. He's not running away and saying, okay, this dive is bad or whatever. And sure, at lower MMRs, players might make mistakes if they don't understand their hero limitations, but the only way to learn it is to try. And as soon as the Viper teleports in and then just says, oh, never mind, I'm just going to stay mid, then that's a situation where both the Bristle and the AA recognize, hey, this guy can no longer be in this situation. And they just go for the dive and they get a kill, and the Bristleback lives. So now he's respawned, he TPs, he does a bottle fill for his offlane hero. Or maybe that was the 4. I don't know whose bottle that was. Maybe it was the Pangos. But either way, when you TP from base like this and you fill a bottle for a hero, that also changes the flow of the lane pretty heavily. You get 3 charges from the well, so instead of only getting 2 from the bounty rune or the water rune at 2 and 4 minutes, you actually get a full set of bottle there, so it's nice. And now why would he TP top outside of just the fact to fill bottle? The other thing is that he understands at this point, if we just if we pause and we look at the state of the game, you know, Bristle's made his own rotation up here. they've pretty much trounced the bot lane. Like, let's just see. Okay, level-wise, level 6, 501 on the Bristle. This is our safe lane. And now the Axe is 040, almost minute 8. Just as a point of reference for people who don't know timings, the Axe more or less wants to be level 6 already. And the main reasoning for that is Axe is a really fast farming hero, and normally he excels at farming and pressuring lanes and just walking into the creep wave and generally being a terror to a lot of the safe lane heroes that you would normally see. I don't think Bristle is super common as far as just a pure safe laner, but obviously in this case it's worked out quite well with the AA pairing as well. So they've pretty much destroyed bottom. The Axe's timing is completely ruined. They don't need to commit any more time to stopping the Axe player from getting his timings because they already know he's kind of been crippled. So once you've established that a guy is out of the game, you have to think ahead of what's the next step. We won our lane really hard. Logically, what is the thing that I can do that's going to impact other lanes or give us more control over the game than we currently have? And his assessment of the situation is, let's go try to take the safe lane tier 1. They saw the Terrorblade TP bottom when they were going for the dive, when the AA actually did die. That was his first death of the game, by the way. That's the first time he died, when they went for that T2 kill. And then he fills a bottle, and his Bristleback also comes with him, and they pressure the T1. And taking away the enemy's safe lane T1 is one of the best towers to take. Usually the hierarchy of tower importance is like mid-tier 1 is the most important, then your safe lane tier 1, and then way below that is the off lane tier 1. So whenever you have the opportunity to watch a game, you're normally going to see people rotate towards that tower around either this time or a couple of minutes later than that, depending on what bracket you're watching. Typically, the lower MMR players will not rotate that fast, and there won't be that much pressure applied to the safe lane T1, if any, for quite a long time. But at the higher MMR, they're coming for that tower, and they're coming for it fast, especially if they think they're stronger than you. They're going to TP up there, and they're gonna take it. So same thing happening here. The support and the core both go, and now they're going to try to take away a little bit of map control by taking the tower. Standard D ward right here. Very important that if your hero grants its own vision, if you're in this spot, it is always in your best interest to place the ward in here and not on the hill. If you place a sentry on this spire, it's not going to cover. You can place an observer right here, and it will be out of the range of the sentry, and it gives a little bit less vision, but if you miss it and people are rotating, then it could end up saving somebody's life if they were on the dire side. So since Ice Vortex gives you vision of where you place it, he puts the sentry here. It covers all the potential ward locations, not just the one. So that's good stuff to know. And typically people are going to place it on the spire anyway. They don't really think about it. You know, they kind of just put their sentry and their observer right on top of each other, and they're just like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. Really high level, though. Almost level 6 at 8 minutes for a 5. That's very, very high EXP. He's even going to soak some from the Darkseer here. So he's got Ice Blast already. He makes this little movement towards mid. They have a ton of Magic Burst. I think he wants his Queen maybe to play a little bit more aggressively. And Bristleback's going to die top. Overextended a touch. And then he's just going to decide to go bot. So probably not feeling comfortable going for the dive on him. Disarm proc should be able to kill the Grim relatively easy, and it does. So he actually misses a D ward here, by the way. There's a observer from Dire on the cursor right there, which I don't even know if you guys can see that. Did I remember to turn off my overlay? I did. Awesome. Okay, so you guys can see it. Yeah, but he did miss the D ward. And then because he didn't want to dive or didn't want to force the Queen into a kind of a weird fight, he decided to just TP and go for the free kill. Traditionally, TPing to your own safe lane is not seen as... It's not seen as great, but since nothing else is happening on the map and the Bristleback just died top, reasonably speaking, the only place that a play could happen was bottom, and that's because the Pango was there. So at this stage in the game, We're at roughly 9 minutes, especially if you're a hero like AA. The main thing to keep in mind is, what heroes am I looking for on the map that want to play the game? And by play the game, I mean who's going to cast spells and kill heroes. Because those are the heroes that I want to be around, so when I cast my spells, we have some nice combo play. So here, we have Pango, we have Queen. Those are the main ones. Just going to whiff a little on the Ice Blast. Pinging out the ward location. High-level players, whenever they see movement that they feel is, we'll say, unjustified, they usually assume a ward is the culprit of that movement. So, for example, if you're walking top and you're not smoked and you see a guy back, and at a very specific time to where that was the only way he could have avoided the gank, a lot of players would deduce there's probably vision on the way from where we started and where we were going to end, right? So because of that little move that the Viper did, he probably assumed that there was a ward. Because he was on the high ground, and based on where he was, it was not daytime. So the vision, like the normal vision without damage being dealt, would not have shown him. So Clockwork, a little over-aggressive here. He's going to end up paying for it. Don't even need to use the Ice Blast. Everything is good. So let's talk about this walk to bottom, right? So the last, like, 30 seconds or so, what happens? The Queen's going to reach in up. This is shortly after they go on the Viper and they miss the Ice Blast and they ping the ward. They have wards down that sees the Clockwork moving towards bottom. And this is a kind of an overall game philosophy thing, and not just as it pertains to a support, but just an idea. If it's really easy to hold your safe lane T1, holding it is really good. It's really good to hold it. If the enemy team is weaker than you, and they're showing Enforce on a place in the map, and you're just like, we can kill you, you should not let them occupy that space. Because what's going to happen is they're going to fold back to their side of the map and open up your side to where you can do whatever you want, or they're just going to die, right? And it's not like you're losing anything in return, because the AA is walking down here. He doesn't even have a TP scroll, so even if he wanted a TP, he could not. But he's got a lot of heroes already in the lane. He sees, okay, my Ice Blast is going to be up in about 20 seconds. I do want to be here because we do a ton of damage. And if holding the tower is easy and we can maintain this side of our map, then it's in our best interest to do so. This also goes for one position heroes, you know, Lifestealer, Jug, the guys who are really hard to commit to, and Wraith King. All these heroes very good at playing this style. So the Pango's already down here. We know the result of this already. The Clockwork ends up going down. But even the Bristle TPs. So very, very high priority put on defending the safe lane tier 1, keeping this area of the map belonging to the Radiant. And they're even going to get a nice little Observer ward. Actually surprising that the Clockwork warded that after dewarding in vision. Usually you don't see that. The normal process is you deward, and then you find another location that grants roughly the same vision, and you place it out of range of the normal sentry. Because you kind of just expect it to die if you don't do that. You're placing an observer on top of where a sentry already was, and an observer already was, and then thinking that they're not just going to go back and take it the second they have time. So you should always be in the habit of placing them out of range of each other at the very least. So now he's down here with his Bristle. Pango is still kind of in the area. Doesn't have ulti. He's going to throw his ult at the Clockwork and not the Viper, but this Bristleback is definitely going to die. There's not really much AA can do for Bristleback in that situation. Viper and Clock are really tough to deal with for Bristleback, because if you get put in Cogs and then Nether Toxin on top of that, you kind of just die. Breaks your passive, and then you just flop over. Just pretty much what we just saw. So he's got the Fluffy Hat in his inventory. I'm guessing that's just going to go right into a Force Staff. Force is great this game. It's really good against Clock and Viper. Gets you away from the very single target oriented damage up with the Dire have. So this brings me to another really important point for supports. We're just going to pause for a second. Think about the stuff in the game that kills your cores. What's gonna happen to my core that's going to kill him? he's going to get hooked. He's going to get axe called. He's going to get hit by Viper Strike, and the TB is going to auto him. What do most of those things have in common? They're single target abilities. When you get hooked and put into cogs, it's probably just going to be one guy. When the Viper uses all his stuff on you, it's probably just going to be one guy. And when the TB's hitting, he can only hit one person, unless he's like microing his illusions to hit other heroes, but that would be really bad to do. So it's all the stuff that's going to kill my Bristleback this game is single target oriented. And if we look at our other heroes, the only way Queen can die is if she gets axe called. Otherwise, you know, if she blinks poorly, then she's going to die. And Pango, as a hero, and Darkseer, they have their own escapes. They're not as reliant on us being able to save them as a 5. So if we want to protect the Bristle, for the most cost-effective thing that we can get, what makes sense is Force Staff, right? And some people might be asking, okay, well, why don't I just buy like a mech or whatever? And the problem with this item is let's just do it. Let's just math it out, right? So if we go and we type in mech. So this item heals you for 275, and it costs 100 mana, and it's 1,875 gold. 275 HP. That's roughly a vitality booster of health. Whereas if you get hit by Viper Strike right here, it's 80 damage a second for 5 seconds. That's already 400, right? So that's 400 magic damage, on top of potentially another toxin, on top of a battery assault, inside of a cog, getting hit by a Terrorblade. This is all obviously just theory craft when it comes to what type of damage you're going to be taking. But if you get hit by one Viper Strike as Bristle, you've already taken more damage than a mech is ever going to heal. But you know what's really good? Not getting hit by all that stuff. So what the Force Staff does is it means that the enemy is going to commit like a hook shot, and then you move your Bristle out of the death zone, which is basically being inside of the cogs, and then you're mitigating that damage by allowing him to leave. This is a concept that even in the Immortal bracket escapes a ton of players. I can't even tell you how many times I've been in games like this where I see 4s and 5s buying stuff like Mech or even like Glimmer, whereas Glimmer is a bit more forgivable, but it's the same thing. You're still stuck. You're still taking the damage. You have to expect the enemy team's going to buy detection and all the other stuff. So if you ever are up against these style of heroes, Force Staff is your best friend. All right, so let's continue. Safe lane tier 1's taking a lot of damage here. But they are still staying here in force. They're going to have Pango roll pretty soon. They already have Ice Blast. He's putting himself pretty far forward here. And we do have a lot of information on the map. It looks like the Viper was standing a little bit too far away. So now that they get this kill, he's going to go for an immediate smoke rotation, knowing that Rolling Thunder is available. He didn't have to commit Ice Blast. But this is a really strong duo of heroes to be together, because if you catch someone in an enclosed space with Rolling Thunder, you can stun them for quite a long time, and it looks like that's what they're going to go for. So this movement, let's talk about it, right? The TB was hitting the mid-tier 1, and this is true for basically everything. When you're playing against a one player, normally the thing on their mind is efficiency. You know, maybe they're worried about getting ganked if everybody's off the map or whatever. But normally it's like a flow chart, you know, point A to point B to point C, because that's the best way that you're going to acquire gold as quickly as possible. So when he's mid, his fallback point is going to either be the camp that he's currently at, which is a small camp, or it's going to be, you know, the medium camp or the large camp inside of the jungle. So when they smoke, knowing that they have all their ults, and they walk up this hill, they're not only giving themselves the advantage as being on the high ground, but they're also anticipating that either this guy or some other heroes are going to just naturally make their way back to this point. It's thinking in advance. So it's thinking in advance where they're going to be before they're there. It's a little bit complicated for people who might be newer to the game, but the more you play and the more you understand like map movement and all these things, it'll make a lot more sense and be easier to make your smoke plays actually connect. Now, I don't know how this works out because I haven't seen this game yet. This is the first time I'm watching it. They might just both die. But the philosophy behind the movement is still good, and it makes sense. That was a really nice hook from the Clockwork. Actually stopped the Pango roll. If the Clockwork had not made that play, they would have killed the Terrorblade. Okay, so the play didn't work. It was a little bit of a feed. But I would still argue that if they killed the TB, like if the Clockwork missed the hook and they killed the TB and then both die, as supports, they'd probably be just fine with that, in all honesty. And we'll see what he does when he respawns here. He's level 9. Mid-tier 1's still alive. Bristle's gonna TP, so they want to hold the tower. Gonna force out a Grimstroke ulti. So the general approach to the game thus far from AA has been more or less play around my tier 1s. If I have a core in front of me, I kind of just want to be there to make sure that I can contribute my damage. I'm not taking any farm. I'm not really too concerned with stacking camps or anything like that. I'm looking for heroes on my team that are really powerful to combo with. Mostly, it's been the Pango. The Queen could maybe be a bit more active in her gameplay and contribute damage to be able to get kills going a little bit easier. But so far, it's pretty simple as to what he wants. Nice little D-ward. It's really good to be into the habit of D-warding your own side of the map when you know that the enemy team has been in proximity to your jungle, or, you know, you lose a fight or you die, and then there's kind of like this window of a minute where you're not on the map and they could have placed wards. You kind of just want to be doing that a lot. It's always better to be sure that they don't have vision than to have like 6, 7, 8 sentries in the shop and then not be sure if there's observers on top of your cores while they're farming, for example. Again, this happens even in Immortal games. People who play 5 do not buy sentries, and then their cores are dying under wards. And it could very easily be prevented by just spending the money and being thorough with buying your wards and de-warding. So here he gets 2 obs. He places his own observer on top of the hill, which is going to give really good vision here. And I believe the TB dies. Yes, he does. Nice A blast combo. He may not even die here. He's got 20 stick charges. Okay, never mind. He is going to die. Oh, the Viper stopped hitting him. Never mind. Flare's going to finish. And this is a pretty good trade. Queen lived. All the cores from Dire died. We're happy with this. Notice how he gets vision before the fight starts. His team... Let's just go back and watch. It'll be easier to explain if you can just see it. Like, the whole process of what just happened. He de-wards his own side of the jungle, right? And then he de-wards the area where there's a high ground leading up into the triangle to ensure that, you know, we're not going to get flanked. And then in addition, he puts another ward on the other area that he didn't de-ward to ensure that they're not going to be coming in from there and getting a jump on a core. And notice his pathing too. He's not in tower range. He's assuming, based on killing the other observer on the south spire by the mid-tier 1, that there is no other observer in this area because he just killed 2 of them, right? So because he killed 2, he's deducing, okay, there's probably not another observer in mid, so I'm most likely safe to just walk over here and place this. Now, let's see if he's right, first off. Let's see. Let's check this side. Yeah, so there isn't actually a ward from Dire. So his decision-making is correct. I don't even think they saw him right away. Eventually, they do scout him, obviously, and the Ice Blast goes out. But it's very thorough. He comes over to this spot, he drops the sentry, he kills this ward. He walks over here, he drops this sentry, he kills this ward. Then he establishes his own team's vision in anticipation of a fight happening under a tier 1 because his team is all here. These are all habits you want to have. You want to be thorough with your dewarding. You want to check the common spots. You want to prepare your team as best you can through vision to take an objective. Now, this kind of stuff is a bit tricky at lower MMR because people are going to be hesitant to want to do stuff. I know that a lot of people just occupy the jungle and don't necessarily force it as much as they want. But as frustrating as that may be, being a support player, myself for a very long time, just do the best you can. Just place wards where you think that it makes sense to have the vision. And if you don't know where that is, place them on the enemy's side of the map and try to not be on your side of the map as much as you can. As a support, if your team wants to just AFK farm, that is the best contribution you can do for your team, is to make yourself a target as far away from your cores as you can, have vision, try to avoid ganks. You know, obviously this isn't for every game, but there are niche situations where no one on your team is going to want to do shit, right? Sometimes that's just how it be. But you can make the best of it if you just follow those little rules. So we already know what happens here. We're just going to go back to player perspective. We know the AA dies. But they get a lot of kills. They get a lot of kills. The trade is more than worth it. Really nice spell usage, too, by the AA here.
He's heating up.
So it ends up being a 3 for 4, and the mid tower is also going to die. So what transpired because we placed that vision? We got a nice combo onto 2 heroes, both of which were cores. Killed the TB before he was able to really do anything. He did Sunder, but it didn't matter. He died anyway. Same thing for the Axe. So we get these 2 really key spells off in the beginning of the fight because of 1 ward. I think it's hard for a lot of people to understand the impact of the vision when you're in the game itself. It's very hard to understand it, especially, again, if you're newer. The impact of vision cannot be overstated. It's one of the most important parts about the game. Dota is a game of information. If you don't have information, you feel very scared to do anything. And I'm sure a lot of people may not be able to understand why they were scared, but they've certainly felt that feeling inside of the game. So what he does there for his team is he gets vision superiority. They win a great fight. They get the most important tower on the map. And now the game goes from pretty much a stalemate to them being ahead by 2k gold. And at this point, the game's still really close. Now imagine if they hadn't been able to take that fight, how it would have flopped in the enemy team's favor. These are tangible results that you can get in your own game just by applying some of the philosophies that we're talking about in this video. So another fight's about to kick off. They are going to initiate on the Bristleback. A-Blast does skim over 2, but it's not doing a huge amount of damage. Queen Burst and his positioning should be enough to kill the Viper, and everyone else is going to explode to Ice Blast damage and the Darkseer combo. But his positioning there was fantastic. This is like a very good way to look at team fights. So again, dewarding, being very diligent, making sure that they didn't place their own observer on that hill. His ward that was placed earlier is still up. Actually, I'm not 100% sure he placed this one. Maybe it was the 4-player. Honestly, I do not recall who placed this one, but either way, they have a ward. So they see, and in response, he is standing on the complete opposite side of not only the fight, but his own team. Because he understands the importance of being able to get his spells off in a team fight. So now, this team fight happens. Hookshot is already committed. Viper Strike is already committed. The Terrorblade is just nowhere to be found. He's actually down here in the fog. So again, Vision winning fights. Why do they know they can do this? Because they just saw the Terrorblade bottom like 3 seconds ago, and he might not even have meta. Yeah, his meta's down. So Metamorph is pretty much the ability that allows Terrorblade to be a menace in fights. And knowing that it's not up, and having the vision, they go, hey, this fight is probably going to be pretty good. Even though his skill use here wasn't as good as it was in the last fight, the idea of fighting here is correct, and they had the vision, so it works. I mean, the Queen ulti even only hits one person. The Queen ulti didn't hit the Clockwork or the Axe in the river after the vacuum. He just went for the Viper. So far, I'd say he's had relatively high impact in the game as a 5. Granted, his team is utilizing the vision and playing kind of as a cohesive unit. But I'd say pretty solid so far. Nothing has happened in this game where I looked at it so far and I said, I'm not really sure about this. Everything has been kind of clean, well thought out, good wording, you know, very just good, solid 5 play. Even in his downtime when nothing's happening on the map, he knows right now that they're not going to be able to push a tower. Queen's out of mana, Darkseer just used wall, there's no Sonic Wave or anything like that. So even in the downtime, he's finding the moments to stack camps because he knows he has a Bristleback, and Bristleback can kill Ancients all day. If you have this hero on your team, stacking Ancients is very, very useful because all he needs is mana. He doesn't need a Vanguard, he doesn't need a Hood or anything. He can just kite the camp, press Quill Spray, and it will eventually die. And that is a huge influx of gold and experience. And not only does he get that for his Bristle, but because the Bristle's killing it, it opens up the lane for him, and he can get his level 12. Which obviously means second point into Ice Blast. And whenever you're thinking about what direction you want to take in the game as a support, you just need to think about, okay, what does my team benefit from the most? And how can I accomplish that without kind of making myself die too many times? That's more or less what he's been doing the whole game. Like in the bottom lane, he baits for his Bristle. The Bristle loves it when he's at high health and his support's being gone on, so he creates situations where that happens. He's been really good about his vision. He's even going to potentially get another D-word here. I think he's a bit scared. Yeah, the enemy team was pinging him. But there were a lot of heroes off map there, so he didn't feel comfortable doing it. They are going to get the Axe kill. Ice Blast prevents healing, so even the TP home doesn't save him. He's just going to shatter. I don't even think the Sonic Wave hit him. I think he just shattered a dagger and Ice Blast. But and now at this stage, we're getting a little bit ahead. We're going to find another ward. Always checking for vision. Every time. And why is it important to check for vision here? Obviously because we're going for Roshan. If I know I've just killed an Observer near the Rosh pit, and my team is in Rosh, I automatically feel way better about that attempt. Even with the Axe dead, he still places an Observer and a Sentry. Now in my mind, that was probably the first thing that he did the whole game that I would say maybe he didn't need to do that, right? Like, maybe you didn't need that because the Axe was dead. But he could be worried about like a Clockwork Seal or something like that, and he wanted to prevent it. He's going to kill that ward. Notice how when he saw it the first time, he backed up instead of committing suicide to kill the ward. I mean, I say that. He is going to die for killing the ward regardless, but the first time he left because he thought that was going to happen, and then he went back and killed it, and then it happened anyway. So we'll say unlucky. He does not have buyback, so this fight is more or less going to be without him. Nice little combo from the Dire team, the old Viper Strike Grim ulti. Now Viper is going to commit suicide on the Aegis. Obviously, this whole situation was created from a D-ward. And this should end up being still pretty good for Radiant. Darkseer is going to get the clone of the Terrorblade, which hits real hard. Terrorblade's going to be forced back to base, and Grim's probably just dead.
The Monster Jam!
So even though the Aegis didn't give us a direct tower or anything like that, like we didn't get a tier 2 or even the T1 in the offlane is still alive. The cores repeatedly dying on the enemy team and not scaling is just as good. I think there's a common misconception in a lot of brackets of Dota, even Immortal bracket, depending on what MMR you are, where if you die and you don't get a tower or something, you just feel bad about it. Even if the resulting fight was good, you didn't get a tower, so you think the fight's not good. That is just objectively untrue. And mostly because if you're trading the Aegis for core kills, then that is more economic damage to the enemy team. And economic damage over a course of time, you can see that Radiant's slowly climbing ahead. There's 6k now, net worth ahead. You know, that's a full item in somebody's inventory, or at the very least half of an item. And those can be the make or break between the next fights. And if heroes like Viper are dying, you can see on the left, the net worth display, he's already, you know, 2,400-ish behind the Bristle, and a little bit more than that behind the Darkseer. So this Viper is dying in all these engagements, and his Terrorblade is soaking up the remaining farm, which means his hero will not scale. It just won't. Especially if Dire keep forcing these engages.
This won't be pretty. They've reached Dire's top
More
tower.
dewarding, more just being thorough, finds another observer. And this is for the same reasoning as the push on mid when they were by the tier 1. He sees that they're going for the tower push, and as they don't currently have a tier 2, they know they can't capture the outpost. So notice how he's not walking in vision range. He only walks into vision range when he knows the tier 2 is about to die, and then when the tier 2 dies, he immediately goes for the cap.
It seems apparent that Radiant has chosen to strengthen
Now, I already know the result of this game, but I think what we're probably going to do is around 25 minutes, we're just going to pause, do like a quick summation of the things that happened within the game, and then we're probably going to wrap it up because I want to keep these videos not super long, even though I'm pretty sure this one's already pretty long.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
But I don't want to have like a hour-long YouTube video. And this is more or less for the people who are maybe just coming back to Dota or kind of getting to the point where they want to learn really how to support, mostly from the 4 or 5 perspective. And all this stuff is going to be multiple videos long. Like, it's not just going to be one support video in each role. It's going to be like a lot of different videos in a lot of different situations so that you guys at home can kind of learn the ideology behind why players do what they do. At least the good players, much better than me.
Slams it home.
Alright, so we do a little bit of a death there, but they lose the clock. And at this stage in the game, we're gonna hit pause and we're gonna talk about the overall idea of what AA wanted to accomplish this game. First and foremost, secure your lane, which we did because we baited them into fights. The Bristleback took almost no harass at all in the laning phase. And he took very little harass because we were always trading with the Grim, forcing the Grim to hit us, and then buying regen to compensate for that. So when a fight does occur, we know for a fact that we can take that fight. And he's done all this, you know, in his head. He goes, okay, I'm just going to trade, and then I'm going to be sending out regen because I'm trading. And then when the fight happens, we win the fight. And that happened multiple times in lane. I want to say it happened at least 3 times. They killed the Grim 2 times in a row. His TP was on cooldown. They killed the Axe. They forced a Viper TP bottom, killed the hero anyway. The Viper canceled, and all that happened was the AA died, and that was his first death in the first 8 minutes of the game. So we can easily say, hey, we did the laning thing. It was good. Then the next thing is, you know, what do I do during the early mid game? He spent a lot of time protecting towers. They have great magic damage and teamfight capability on their team. So one of the best things you can do when you have that sort of lineup is just protect your side of the map, because if they walk into you and they don't have a really strong hero to frontline or eat spells, and you're AA, those heroes get really heavily punished. So we saw a lot of time spent towards mid. We saw a lot of time spent towards bottom. This is all in line with that process of let's protect the tier 1s. So that was the next thing. And then after that, it was obviously this whole time we're establishing vision. We're being diligent about our warding and our dewarding. We're not wasting any time being somewhere on the map that we can't do anything. We're always trying to play next to someone, because our hero in particular pairs really well with everybody else on the team. Darkseer's magic damage, Queen's magic damage, Pango is magic damage. So if it's just me and another guy, we still have kill potential on a lot of heroes on Dire. Terrorblade will die, Grim will die, Clockwork will die, Axe will die. Viper is a little bit tankier, but in the right situations, he too will still die. So it's important that you, if you're playing a hero like this, and you have a pairing in mind where you're like, if me and my teammate are next to each other, we're strong. You know, we're just strong. This is also applied to defending the towers as well. When they're there in force, and you have all these heroes next to each other, the wombo combo is real on this Radiant team. So he definitely had that in mind when he was doing that as well. And then we saw the dewarding trip that he did from his jungle to the tier 1, killing the Spire Ward, placing his own observer, resulting in a team fight that also killed the tower. Even though it was only a 1 hero kill difference, they get the T1. And then later on, that T1 being dead and then getting an axe pick off because of more vision leads to a Roche. And now we're at a state in the game where it's 25 minutes in. We have this 7k lead. The Viper's died a bunch, and he's not really scaling. And now this Terrorblade is kind of eating the rest of the map from his team. Now, we didn't go over every little laning phase thing. But for the most part, these videos are more meant to be just like general guidelines and ways that you can think about the game that maybe you haven't before. And if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, feel free to post it in the comments below. I'm looking to upload a lot of these style of videos where we just kind of jump into a replay, high MMR game, and talk about, you know, the flow from a support perspective. What can you do? What can't you do? Stuff like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video very much. If you guys want to check me out on Twitch, it's twitchtv.draskyl or / I guess Draskyl, just like it is on the YouTube. And I appreciate you guys supporting and following and all that other stuff, and hope to see you soon.